My name is Thomas, though back then everyone called me Tom. It feels like a lifetime ago, a different world entirely. Looking back at that young man in the photograph, it's hard to believe that was me. So much innocence, so much naivety, lost to the harsh realities that lay ahead. Before the war, my world was the English countryside, a tapestry of green fields and ancient woodlands. It was a simple life, a peaceful life, a life I took for granted. Rolling hills, stretching as far as the eye could see, sheep dotting the landscape like fluffy white clouds, and a cottage with my family nestled amongst the trees, a haven of warmth and love. That cottage held everything I held dear. My hands were made for mending fences, for working the land, not for holding a rifle or bayonet. I knew the feel of wood and earth, not the cold steel of war. The war was just a rumor, a distant rumble, until the posters went up, plastered on every wall, and men, young and old, started leaving the village, answering the call to arms. I was 17, barely a man, but I felt the pull of duty, a sense of obligation, a desire to prove myself, to protect my family, to defend our way of life and the life I loved so dearly. I couldn't imagine anything bad happening to them. Saying goodbye was the hardest thing I'd ever done, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. My mother cried, her tears a torrent of unspoken fears. My father shook my hand, his grip firm, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and worry, and Lily, my little sister, clung to the wooden bird I'd carved for her, her small face etched with confusion. I promised I'd be safe, that I'd write every week, that I'd be back soon, before they even knew I was gone. Empty promises, whispered to ease their pain and my own. As the train pulled away from the station, a plume of smoke billowing into the sky, the green hills of home faded into the distance, each passing mile a step further into the abyss, replaced by the unknown, the uncertainty, and the looming dread of war. The Western Front was nothing like home, just mud, grey skies and endless trenches. We lived like moles, burrowed deep to escape danger, soaked to the bone. Days blurred into nights, ruled by fear and routine, standing watch, cleaning rifles, repairing walls. Sleep was rare and the nights brought only more fear. Flares, rats and the distant thunder of artillery. Shelling shook the ground. We huddled together, praying to survive. I clung to memories of home, trying to hold on to the boy I was. The war tried to change us, but we learned to survive, numb to the horror. In the trenches, I found a new family. Arthur from Yorkshire, Sam from London, and others. We shared everything: bread, cigarettes, stories, and warmth. Kindness was our lifeline. We watched out for each other. When fear overwhelmed me, Sam would tell stories, his voice steady through the chaos. These friendships were our greatest weapon, stronger than any rifle. Together we faced horrors no one should see, but we carried the weight as brothers. Arthur, Sam and the others reminded me that goodness could survive even here. They gave me hope that we were still men, not just soldiers. Writing letters became my sanctuary, my solace amidst the chaos. It was a way to reach home, to bridge the impossible distance from the muddy, war-torn trenches to the warmth and familiarity of my family. Each word was a step closer to them, a whispered promise of return. I wrote about food, the simple, comforting meals I longed for. And I wrote about friends, the brave souls who stood beside me, sharing laughter and tears in the face of unimaginable hardship. But I also found myself hiding the worst truths, carefully editing the horrors I witnessed. It was a necessary deception, a shield to protect my family from the brutal realities of war, to spare them the nightmares that haunted my waking hours. One night, under the flickering light of a candle, I wrote a special letter, a letter filled with longing and love. My dearest mother, father and Lily. I told them I missed the hayfields, the scent of fresh-cut grass and the endless blue sky. I yearned for mother's pie, the taste of home baked into every bite. I remembered father's laughter, a booming sound that filled our house with warmth and joy. And I dreamt of Lily's joy, her infectious spirit that brightened even the darkest days. I promised I was safe, a comforting lie meant to ease their worries. I assured them I was surrounded by good men who looked after me, brothers in arms who shared my burdens. I confessed that I kept Lily's lucky charm in my pocket, a tangible reminder of the love that awaited me. It was a talisman, a symbol of hope, something to hold on to when despair threatened to consume me. I ended with a promise, a vow etched in ink and sealed with unwavering determination. I declared that the war would end, that peace would prevail, and that I would, without a doubt, come home to them. That letter was more than just words on paper. It was a piece of my heart, a fragment of my soul. It was a message of love and hope, sent across the miles, carried by the winds of war, with the fervent prayer that it would reach its destination and bring comfort to those I cherished most. The war dragged on, seemingly without end. Each day brought new challenges, new horrors, and new reasons to despair. And we lost friends, comrades who had stood shoulder to shoulder with us in the face of unimaginable adversity. Each loss a fresh wound, a searing pain that cut deep into our souls. The weight of grief became a constant companion, a heavy burden that threatened to crush our spirits. Hope was hard to find, a flickering flame in the overwhelming darkness. The trenches were a breeding ground for despair, and the constant threat of death cast a long shadow over our lives. But we dreamed of after, a time beyond the war, a future where peace reigned and life returned to normal. Arthur's farm, a place of tranquility and abundance, where we could escape the horrors of war and reconnect with the simple joys of life. Sam's dance, a celebration of life and love, where we could forget our troubles and lose ourselves in the music and laughter. My own homecoming, a moment of pure joy and relief when I could finally embrace my loved ones and leave the war behind. These dreams were our shield, protecting us from the despair that threatened to consume us. They were the reason we faced each day, the source of our strength and resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. We fought not just an enemy, but for something far greater than ourselves. We fought for a future of peace and simple joys, a world where our children could grow up without the threat of war. Memories of home became a promise, a beacon of hope that guided us through the darkest of times, that life could be beautiful again, that the world could heal from the wounds of war and blossom anew. We endured, pushing ourselves to the limits of our physical and emotional strength, hearts full of hope for tomorrow, for a brighter future where peace and justice would prevail. This story isn't just about war. It's a testament to the human spirit, our capacity for love, compassion, and resilience in the face of unimaginable suffering. It's about friendship, hope, and the strength to dream of peace. Even when surrounded by the horrors of war, we must remember their sacrifices, the price they paid for our freedom, and build the world they longed for, a world free from violence and oppression, where all people can live in peace and dignity, a world where no boy has to leave home for war again, where future generations can inherit a legacy of peace and understanding.